Monster hunting. It's pretty neat, just hitting something big with another big thing until it stops moving. And that's what this video is about. Or more specifically, Monster Hunter World and Dauntless. With the reason I'm specifically talking about these two is the relationship that they had years ago when they both were fairly new. As for obvious reasons, when Dauntless came out, many saw it as the dollar store Monster Hunter World. And from my perspective, many people saw Dauntless as just the hated stepchild in a large family. So I want to speak about why I like both and what aspects about each of those games make me enjoy them for their own reasons. And the obvious elephant in the room about a certain game that had just gotten a recent update that hasn't been very well received. But I already wrote the script, and I don't want to scrap this video, so here we are. But thank you for being here, and I hope that you enjoy this. But regardless, I think the best place to start would be with the game we all know and very likely love. Hey, I decided to suit up for this occasion. But anyway, giving a rundown of this game would likely be redundant for a lot of people who watch this video, if anyone watches it. And the game's concept isn't super complicated to those who don't know about it. You hunt big monsters. So, I'll just cut to what I enjoy about playing it and why I used to not enjoy it actually. I started Monster Hunter World years after it had come out with a friend, and got over halfway through it, putting about 50 hours into the game before I had stopped playing. Overall, I can only point to what I think made me stop playing it, but I don't have 100% confidence in knowing what made me stop playing it, if that makes sense. Monster Hunter World is a game that I think requires patience, and at least a different type of thinking to fully enjoy it. And at the time, I did not have patience for the game. The patience to understand the game's mechanics and the monsters when farming them, and to really enjoy the game to its fullest extent. And also, because Monster Hunter World can definitely be hard at times, getting my ass handed to me in a fight was very demoralizing and resulted in overall frustration that made me want to stop playing. So I stopped playing. Now, years after, I did make a few attempts to try and get back into the game, but all ended in failure until recently. As now, I have put 150 hours into the game, with 50 being on my Xbox when I was playing on that years ago, and 100 on my PC now. And I think what helped me get into the game was having a different mindset, as opposed to trying to brute force every problem that I'd run into or everything that I had found annoying. I instead tried to adapt to said annoying things, and I think that has helped me get into the game more and actually start to really enjoy it, as this game aims for something specific, for a specific audience, and it makes very few compromises for people that this game is not for. So for me to have a mindset that clashed with ways that I could enjoy this game made it harder for me to enjoy it. Which is also why, obviously, a lot of people like this game, and what makes me like it. And that brings me to what I like about this game. The overall art direction and how the weapons are so well made, having such a good amount of detail to them, despite there being such a variety of weapons. You want something ranged? Got it. You want something that's slow and hits hard? Got it. You want something that's fast and forgiving to use? Got it. You want something that takes a PhD to learn? You also got that. Not to mention the design of the gear itself, because it is superb and nothing less. Even the armor I'm wearing looks great, making the hunting aspect of this game feel even better, because when you get done farming a monster that takes too long to farm for certain reasons, it feels even more rewarding, and it feels like the effort you put in to get that armor or gear was worth it. And that's not even mentioning the stats and bonuses that you get from the armor. Honestly, just the looks alone is enough to go after some of them. But the game is really fun overall, and it also gives a mix of feelings as you go through it. With one of those feelings, at least at the beginning, being the underdog. They do a very good job at making you feel like you are not the predator in any of these situations. You are doing what you can to get a leg up in any fight you find yourself in. Dirty or not, you are fighting for survival. And that's a really interesting feeling to have, as most games don't really give you that feeling. Most games make you feel like you're the winner, you're the best of the best. So having a game that makes you fight to feel like you're strong is interesting. As you get further and further through the game, progressing more through the story, getting better gear and items, you do obviously start to get better at the game and get better gear, and you kind of become John Monster Hunter. And fights don't feel as scary as they were before. And I don't really think that makes the game worse, and obviously this is all very subjective, but it adds to the experience that makes me enjoy the game. That and the world itself, because this game really does put world in Monster Hunter World with how beautiful everything is. Each area and environment looks so good and works so well with making it feel like a place that you're learning and exploring. Even both of the home bases you find yourself in have a certain charm to them that adds more to liking what's already there, making an overall well-designed world, and makes it a place that I want to be in and that I enjoy being in. And while there's so much more I could speak about, like the depth that this game has with its armor and decorations and gear and stats, the amazing music, and many other things, I still need to speak about another game. And there's a little bit more to talk about with that, and it's a lot less positive. So, let's talk about Dauntless. Now, the elephant in the room is the latest update for Dauntless, known as the Awakening, has been poorly received as it just kind of got rid of a lot of the good things about Dauntless. And now, Dauntless is arguably worse than almost any other type of monster hunting game that's on the market currently. I'm not sure how many there are, and I'm not sure how good those are, but Dauntless isn't as good as it used to be, simply put. So I want to talk about what had made it unique, and how the update just ruined a lot of that. So let's start with the weapons, and how they're different from Monster Hunter. As Monster Hunter has 14 weapons and Dauntless has 6 weapons, with there being multiple differences between the weapon systems of these games, as the Monster Hunter weapons, for the most part, have a lot more depth to them compared to Dauntless. But where Monster Hunter has depth in their weapons, Dauntless has customization. Because with Monster Hunter weapons, there is very little you can do in order to change them and the way that you use them. But with Dauntless, there are a few things you can change about them. Obviously, you can't change entire movesets or anything like that, but you can change things in order to have a sense of personal preference. For example, the War Pike weapon in Dauntless gives you the ability to shoot an orb of energy that deals a decent amount of damage, or you can change it to an ability that makes it so you launch yourself in a certain direction, and the further the distance that you travel before you hit your target, the more damage you do. So again, this obviously doesn't completely change how you use the weapon, but it gives customization, which is always nice. And I will say, the overall weapons and armor in Dauntless, at least before, were a bit more RPG-like compared to Monster Hunter, with having build crafting that honestly kind of reminds me of Destiny, to a certain extent, obviously. But the differences of the actual gameplay, simply put, Dauntless is much easier than Monster Hunter World, with the average hunt time of Dauntless being much quicker than that of Monster Hunter World. And the monsters are just easier to fight in Dauntless. That's not to say there isn't any type of challenge in Dauntless, things can get hard. It's just overall, or comparing the two, Dauntless is definitely the easier one. And that's not a bad thing by any means, as sometimes you're not really in the mood to get thrown around in Monster Hunter World if you're not good at the game, like me, because I am not good. And it's also part of what makes me enjoy one of my favorite aspects of this game. a game mode called Escalation. Now, essentially, Escalation is a boss rush game mode, but there is a little bit more to it than that, as the way Escalation works is there are two different types of escalation. There are lower level versions and higher level versions, along with different types depending on the element of that escalation. So fire, electric, frost, and the way that they work is the lower level version is simple. You beat a certain amount of monsters and you get to the end and you call it a day. But with the higher level version, if you do well enough, after defeating a certain amount of monsters, you gain the ability to fight the escalation boss. But before that, let me get into the detail of how the game mode actually works. Now, there are multiple islands that you go through in one run that can have 1 or 2 behemoths on it that you have to kill before you can get to the next island. And when you defeat behemoth or behemoths, 2 things happen. You get a rating based off of how well that fight went, and energy from the behemoth's body goes over to a nearby crystal that will power it so that you can then use it to charge your lantern, which will give you an ability for the rest of that run. And if you're doing well, your overall rating will get past a certain point and you get to fight the escalation boss, a behemoth that's specific to the escalation that you are running. So if you're doing the fire escalation, there is the lava monkey, or if you're doing the shadow or umbral escalation, you get to fight the harbinger of the shadow realm that had been sealed away by those before us. So, you know, you got some variety between them. Now, why this works so well for me is multiple things that come together. First off, the game being overall easier makes a game mode like this much more doable, as I can't imagine doing a boss rush game mode like this in Monster Hunter World. But due to the game's overall lack of difficulty, it makes it work really well, as it doesn't take too long to complete a run, but having to fight multiple behemoths back to back can put your skills to use. And having a roguelite type of upgrade system does help in making each run slightly different, and it also overall helps you at fighting behemoths and learning their attack patterns as you fight them over and over and over, and you fight multiple of them in one run. Not to mention, the rewards actually aren't half bad from playing a lot of Escalation, as each Escalation has its own leveling system that allows you to get certain things like cosmetics for your lantern or even an armor set that's themed after that escalation boss as a transmog. You also get an upgrade sort of grid that you can use to give yourself overall permanent buffs for that specific escalation, or you get the upgrade that allows you to use upgrades from one escalation on another. And before a certain update, you would get weapons from farming these bosses, and these weapons came with their own abilities as well. Now granted, most of them weren't that good, but they were cool and made you feel cool because escalation boss weapons were the only weapons that can do this. So this all culminates in a well-made, fun game mode that could actually be kind of challenging, making you get better at the game and would even push you to think about build crafting. And it even had worthwhile rewards, showing how good Dauntless could be when it played to the few strengths that it had. But keyword is had. Because in the most recent update, the things that made Dauntless actually enjoyable have, a lot of them at least, been removed, as the typical weapon system has been replaced with giving weapons their own loadouts. So if a weapon has an element that you want, but not the abilities that you want, that's too bad. You gotta suck it up and use what you don't want for the sake of doing more damage. And most good weapons can now just be bought with money. Now, before there were roughly 3, maybe 4 weapons that you could buy from the cash shop with money, but now majority of the weapons that you would craft in the game from behemoths are now part of the cash shop, getting rid of half of the reason you would hunt monsters, the weapons you get from killing them. Now, there are still armor sets you can craft, but they also got rid of weapon leveling, as before you would upgrade a weapon through a resource that you would gain by just playing the game. But it's now been replaced by something that just seems to be worse from what I can tell. And honestly, it doesn't even end there, as due to the fact that they reworked the entire weapon system, many people, me included, had their progress reset and only got like $15 worth of compensation. And I could probably get more into it, but there are very likely many other videos that are better than this one that have covered the update and specifically talked about what it has changed. And honestly, for me personally, it was very demoralizing to see a weapon that was my favorite get taken away and just get repurposed for the cash shop. To see something that I had spent at least 15 hours grinding to get and even felt pride for getting become nothing more than a weapon skin to transmog. I liked Dauntless, and there was something that made it unique, and there was something that made it enjoyable compared to other monster hunting games, and they had potential to take it far. I understand that Dauntless very likely hasn't been doing well recently, and with the economy, at least in America, getting worse as each month and year passes by, I understand why Phoenix Lab probably allowed themselves to be bought by a crypto company, but it's very obvious that being bought very secretively, no less, by a crypto company is not the best idea, as it's likely part of what has resulted in this game becoming what it is now. I liked Dauntless, and there was something that made it unique, but now that's gone, and I don't want to play Dauntless anymore. Thank you for getting this far into the video. I'm not really sure what to say for the outro other than, again, thank you. I really need to talk about it. I need to take the time to talk about games that are doing well. Maybe I'll make a Warframe video or something, I don't know. But regardless, thank you for watching this video and getting all the way through it if you did. I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope that you did enjoy it. If you, again, you got all the way through this, thank you. But regardless, I hope you have a good day, a good night, and everything in your life goes right. Thank you for watching.